Costco has been making news as they are testing membership scanners in several parts of the country. For more, we're joined now by our money expert, Rubina Ahmed-Haq. Rubina, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Both Costco and Disney are the latest companies to crack down on this account sharing. So I guess a lot of people are wondering, is the era of freeloading or membership sharing, is it over?
Or mooching, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I think this is a trend that so many companies, Netflix was the first one to say that you cannot have your account logged in 4 different places with one membership. They really want people to actually sign up and pay that fee. Costco may be a little bit more difficult. I mean, they really have to look at that picture, make sure it's the same person. I know they're doing the scan. That's going to, add another layer of technology. I often take my brother to Costco to go shopping because they don't have a membership. So I don't know whether they're going to crack down on that as well. Like, you can't bring in a friend or a relative to shop on your membership. But really, this is their effort to say, hey, you really enjoy our store or enjoy our streaming service, pay for it now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We were talking about Me-cession off the top. And let's talk about how far we are from an actual, and we've talked about this quite a bit, but the difference between a Me-cession and a recession and how far off those two are.
Yeah. So a recession is 2 quarters of negative growth. So 2 3-month periods where the economy didn't grow. And so that would be considered a technical recession where, there's the government and the Bank of Canada has to step in, actually make some changes in order to get businesses moving again, get people borrowing again. A Me-cession is much more personal, and it can happen when the economy is great. You could lose your job. You could all of a sudden have a big expense that takes money out of your emergency fund or your savings. And what this report is saying, this was a term coined by an economist out in Alberta, is saying that a lot of people are feeling that the recession is really affecting them personally, and so calling it a Me-cession, where they're feeling like, we can't afford the things we afforded 3 years ago, 4 years ago. We can't make those financial goals for ourselves because we don't know whether we'll be able to afford to get there. And so that really feels personal, and so that's why they're calling it a Me-cession.
Is that an indicator, though, that an actual recession is on the way, do you think?
So if you are feeling like your finances are tight, you're less likely to go out there and spend money in the economy. So it could have a knock-on effect where people might just be feeling a little bit strapped, and so they don't spend money out in the economy, and then it actually has that negative effect because we very much depend on consumers going out there and spending their money to keep the economy going.
For sure. All right. Also want to mention this morning, the country's 2 main railways and workers, they remain at odds. And what is behind this impasse? And let's talk about what sort of effect it could have on Canadian families and the economy as a whole.
Yeah, so it could have a huge impact, for sure. If they are to strike, of course, that would give us less access to those trains to get around the country. It's one of the most popular ways to get around in Canada. One of the reasons that this strike may happen is because they are worried about their company's ability to move them to a new location in order for them to keep their full-time status. So they're saying that we don't want to be in a position where all of a sudden I've got to work in another part of the country because in order for me to keep my job, that's the only way to do it. They want some surety that they are going to be able to stay in the place that they're at. And I think I'm not making a comment on whether that's reasonable or not, but that seems to be a reasonable thing, that if you hire me here, you can't transfer me to Halifax or another place to work because that could have a real impact on my family. Yes, it would have an impact on the economy because businesses use it to travel between major cities. We use the railway to move goods around. All of that would be impacted.
Supply chain issues? I hate to bring up that word or term, but
for sure, yeah. And we're moving into what is the 3 most busy times for retailers. So we've got Thanksgiving, Halloween, and then, of course, the big one, the holidays. We move a lot of stuff at this time of year onto the shelves, and so we want those railways to be working for us to get those things there.
Turning to the stock market, had its worst week. The volatility last week on the stock market was one of the worst weeks it's seen in a while. And it's mostly recovered, but how much has that spooked investors?
A lot. So last Monday, where we were all on holiday in the U.S. and in Japan, those markets suffered. And then we had on Tuesday a similar kind of performance because of what had happened on Monday. So yes, you're right. The markets have recovered somewhat. They're not back to where they were before that big drop, especially in Japan. It dropped more than 12%, their index. The fear is that there could be a recession in the U.S. There is a jobs report that came out that indicates that things are not moving in the way that they they had expected. And if there is a recession in the U.S., especially here in Canada, it will have a major impact. The U.S. is the biggest economy, and so anything that happens in the United States impacts the entire world. And if they don't cut interest rates, so the next interest rate announcement for the Federal Reserve, which is their central bank, is in September. If they don't cut interest rates, it's going to indicate that they don't have faith in the economy to handle lower interest rates, and that could have a major negative effect on the markets and then also across the globe.
All right, we will keep an eye on that. We're going to have to leave it there for now. Rabina, good to see you this morning.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming by.
thanks for having me.